So here's three defenses I'm looking to drop heading into Week 11 of the fantasy football season. The first one's the Chicago Bears. The Bears, we saw them last night on Monday Night Football versus the Minnesota Vikings. It was a good ball game. The defense, they had a pretty decent game. A return touchdown from Cordell Patterson, which saved their day, or they would have had 6 fantasy points. And now the Bears, the next few games, they got tough matchups coming up. But Week 11, they got the bye. Then Green Bay and Detroit, who could put up points. So the Bears, they're owned in 76% of fantasy leagues. But this is the week to go out there and drop them. They're not going to be usable till Week 13 or 14 at best is the Bears. Like I said, they've been declining the last few weeks, and Cordell Patterson's return touchdown saved them last night. So go out there and drop the Bears defense. The second one's the Washington football team. This week, Washington, we'll see what they can do, but I'm not going to rely on them this week as a defense versus the Cincinnati Bengals, even though the Bengals give up the 4th most fantasy points to defenses. If they get Joe Burrow back there going and Joe Mixon back in the lineup, I think Cincinnati could score points and put them on the board quickly. And now the last 2 weeks, this Washington football team defense, they've been disappointing in fantasy. In Week 9 versus the Giants, 23 points allowed and 5 sacks. They only finished the day with 5 fantasy points. And then this week versus Detroit, they gave up 30 points and only 1 sack. That's not going to cut it. They got Cincinnati and Dallas coming up, 2 matchups that look good on paper. But I just don't like the outlook for this Washington football team on defense. They're only 30% owned, so managers the last few weeks, they got the hint and they're dropping Washington. And you should go out there and drop them too. And the third and final defense is the Philadelphia Eagles. They've been a disappointment the last few weeks now versus Dallas and then the Giants last week. And Philly, I got them in a few leagues, I'm not going to lie. But now with 3 points versus the Giants, they versus Cleveland, who you know is going to run the ball and play a conservative game where there's not going to be many opportunities for this Eagle defense to pounce. And versus the Giants, they gave up 27 points and only had 3 sacks for 3 fantasy points in Week 10. And now they got Cleveland, Seattle, Green Bay, and New Orleans coming up. So I just don't like the way it looks for Philly. I have them in a few leagues. I'm going to drop them in just about all of them. They are 83% owned, this Philly. But we're going to see the numbers go down more this week, I think, to the 50 or 60% ownage range. So that's a defense I don't want to get on my team anymore, and I'm not going to play. So drop Philly. So that's 3 defenses to cut loose heading into Week 11.